What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be doing this year. I definitely want to be putting a little bit more focus into my YouTube come 2019. I hope you all had a really good break and a good start to your year. In today's video, to kick off 2019, I thought I would go over something that I get asked all the time. So if you are new to following me, you'll know my story, and if you don't know my story, you're about to learn it. So I'm going to go over how I got started in the industry, how I got to where I am today and why I compete, and then I'm also going to go through where I am at currently, because I am competing very shortly. Just in a short 10 weeks, I'll be competing in the WBFF PRO show in LA. So we're going to go through that as well. I'm going to take you guys through a day of what it's like being 10 weeks out with me. But first, let's talk a little bit more about my story. So, how did I get started in the fitness industry and what was the reason that I started competing? So, I'm going to take you guys back to when I was actually before a teenager. Reason being is, growing up, I was always athletic. I was always very competitive. I think that's something to do with my personality and my traits. So I always wanted to compete in everything that I did, not academic-wise, just sports. So definitely more of a sport person than academic. So I was always after school doing things, super active as a kid. And then when I hit like my puberty, hitting teenager, I became a little bit too cool for all of my sport. And I slowly, one by one, gave up on my sport, and I was gone from being this super hyperactive kid to now kind of going to parties as like a teenager, eating the wrong foods, making bad choices, and not exercising at all. So I'm sure a lot of you would know that when you do hit puberty, you can't quite get away with as much. Your metabolism slows down, you have all these different hormones going on, the body changes. So I very quickly, it was only over like a 6-month period, I gained a whole bunch of weight. And I thought I was going to be one of these kids. I was always little in primary school. I thought I was going to be one of these kids that just kind of could eat whatever they wanted and would just stay small. Well, I had a little bit of a shock, so I went and put on a fair bit of weight. I remember this one day, I looked at a photo and I was kind of in denial, and I was like, that's not me, it must be a bad angle. And that started to happen a little bit more frequently. I was like, okay, all right, these can't all be bad angles. Like, they really can't. I think I've actually put on some weight. So I started to really hate the way that I looked. I started hating like photos being taken. I started to get a little bit self-conscious. And then it got to the point that I just would not wear a bikini. And I was like, all right, this is not a bad angle. I definitely need to make a change here. So I really hated exercising. I've obviously lost all my fitness. I went back to the gym one day with my mum and I tried to do a cycle class, and I walked out halfway through. I hated it. And I was so unfit. I didn't even know about weights. I didn't know weights existed at this point. So I started going to the gym just like briefly. I really hated it. I hated getting myself there. And once I finished the gym, I remember I would actually go home and eat a big bowl of pasta. So I started going to the gym, just doing a bit of cardio, like cycle classes, running, trying to get my fitness up a little bit. And I did start to notice slight changes, but my diet was still out the window. I'm not even joking. Every day at school, I would get like a meat pie. I wouldn't eat breakfast. I would drink juice. I wouldn't have water. I was a super fussy eater. I would not touch a vegetable. I would not touch it. I hated it. I was super fussy. So I was starting to go to the gym, and I just noticed a little bit of a change. And just from that little bit of change, it kind of motivated me to, you know, strive for a little bit more. And I started having this competition with myself, where I was watching the weight drop on the scale, and I was loving it. I was like, this was my own kind of competition, and I was able to compete in that way at the gym. So I started, you know, every week I'd get on the scales on a Friday, and I literally started losing weight dramatically just from exercising, pushing a little bit more, just moving my body. And then I thought, all right, I kind of hit this plateau, and I thought, all right, I'm going to need to, I want to up my game and lose a little bit more. This training just isn't doing it for me. So I invested in a personal trainer, and I also started to look at my diet. So I remember I started like, it wasn't a massive change. It was never a massive change. It's never happened overnight. Remember that, because that's what really drives me insane when people do go from one lifestyle change to another. They think it happens overnight, and you're literally just setting yourself up for failure. If you're like, I'm going to start eating 6 meals a day, I'm going to give up soft drink, I'm going to give up smoking, I'm going to give up alcohol, all of this stuff overnight, it's not going to happen. You're going to fail. So you need to kind of put steps in place and gradually build up to that kind of lifestyle. Anyway, so I got the personal trainer and I started looking at my diet, and I would literally just try and eat a little bit healthier, you know, cut my carbs a little bit more at night, just all those kind of typical things. I ended up going on the other side of the spectrum. So I went from 60, to give you an idea, I was 64 kilos before I started training. I'm at the moment 57 and I'm pretty full of muscle. So you can imagine, like, on someone like me, I'm not saying I was huge or anything, but on someone like me with no muscle, I am quite obvious when I put on weight, and I could see it everywhere. So I was 64 kilos, and then I actually dropped to 49 kilos. So now I was on the other side of the spectrum. So I have been on both. I had the school pull me aside thinking I was going anorexic. I did actually like stop eating a little bit. I remember I wasn't actually trying to be anorexic. I just was so determined to try and keep getting that feeling of losing weight, and it kind of gave you these endorphins, and I'm sure you guys, if you have lost a kilo, how amazing you felt. I wanted to keep chasing that. Only problem is I got so small I couldn't lose any more weight without going actually unhealthily underweight. So my boyfriend at the time knew a girl that was competing, and I didn't really know much about bodybuilding. I had no idea about it really. I didn't even know females could really participate in that, and if they did, I thought they were really muscular kind. So I went along to this show to kind of just accompany them, and I remember the bikini division coming out, and I just was like absolutely mesmerized. Not only did they look amazing, I loved the confidence that they had, and at this point in my life I didn't really have much confidence at all. I was a teenage girl, I'm not sure any of them do. So I was really lacking kind of self-esteem and going through a little bit of a dark place at the time. So I felt like watching these girls walking out on stage one by one, I was like, I want to be like that, I want to look like that, I want to act like that. They looked sexy, they looked confident. Anyway, I was thinking, like, I surely could never have a body like that, but I would love to freaking try. So I went away from that show, and straight away I was onto the internet, and I was just looking up coaches, looking up how to do this, when the next show was on, and literally found myself a coach, found a show in 12 weeks, and started prepping. And I was tiny. I was so small. I stepped on stage when I was like 16. It was a joke. Anyway, so I hyped this up, I went to my first show, and I got nothing. So next show came up, I worked harder, and from there I got in top 5. From top 5, I moved on, I got up to top 4, top 3, top 2, and then I finally made a state champion at one of these A and B shows. So I was hooked. It was crazy. I competed all through my HSC. It was just my absolute passion, love of my life, and I competed through it. I did about 12 shows in like 3 years. It was ridiculous. And now I'm going on to my 13th or 14th show. So I ended up competing with all of the federations. I kind of went around and tried them all, see what I fit the best. I ended up going overseas when I was 19 to Vegas with Musclemania, and I did Miss Universe. And I actually did runners up there, which was a complete shock to me. I had no idea that was going to happen. I worked extremely hard for that one, and I couldn't believe the limits that I pushed my body, and it's just super addictive. I was like, wow, if I could push that far, I wonder what I could do the next time. So I think that's the thing I really love about competing. I just kept pushing, kept getting better, and kept learning things about myself, growing, becoming more disciplined. I was watching my body change, and that's what I really love about it. So I went around and I ended up going with WBFF, and I placed 3rd in my first show with them. And then I kind of just stuck with them. I love the fashion side of it. I love being creative, designing my own bikini. I really like having a bit more personality with it, and being a little bit more on the commercial side. So that's why I started to go with WBFF. So I actually decided to compete again about a year ago with WBFF. Literally had my boob surgery and went into prep halfway through, and went to Vegas and ended up placing 2nd. Complete shock. Got my pro card, couldn't believe it. I didn't even know when they called out, top 3 that they earned pro cards. Like, that's how much I don't care. I do care, that's how much I just wasn't there for that. I've never gone out and thought, you know, I want to win. Of course, everyone wants to win, but I love the journey, and I love growing as myself, as an individual. The trophy is just a bonus. So when I got the pro card, I was just like shocked. I had no idea, and I thought, you know what? There's a pro show in Sydney very soon. I'm going to go. So I did the show in about 6 weeks in the Gold Coast, and I actually on my Instagram have a photo of me messaging my mum at 11 PM the night before saying, I shouldn't have done this. I'm doubting myself so much. These girls are just weapons. They all look amazing. I'm too this, I'm too that. Just doubted myself majorly. Went on stage that day, was pretty much laughing through the whole day because I thought, you know what, I'm going to come last. Next minute I came 2nd on my first pro show. I was just blown away. So I guess the moral of that story is I started over here and I knew nothing. I was underweight, I didn't place. And just from working freaking hard and staying committed and being determined, I've ended up being a pro and doing well in a pro lineup. And now I'm prepping for another show in LA in just 10 weeks time. I know how much training has changed my life, not physically, but mentally as well. And that's literally why I want to do this for other people. You don't need to compete. That's something that I do for myself. You definitely don't need to compete. You don't need to be shredded. But the thing that I love about health and fitness is how much it changes your mentality, your drive for life, getting up with energy and excited. That's literally why I like to train the way I do, and that's why I keep this lifestyle. Okay, so I've got a few questions on my Instagram that I put up that I was going to do and answer for you guys. So the first one, I'll do these now. First one is, how long did it take to get sponsors? I could talk on sponsors for a whole video, and I might do that one day. But it took a few years. It took a few years to get sponsors. I don't believe anything worth having is obviously easy. So if you're getting sponsored on the spot, it's probably not a great brand. You need to work for it. So if you're coming into this industry, don't expect to get a sponsor straight away. And why do you want a sponsor? This is one thing I always ask, you know, anyone who ever asks me, how do I get sponsored? Why do you want a sponsor? Is it because of the free products? Is it because it looks cool? I don't know, because the reason I got a sponsor is I wanted exposure and I want to connect with more people. And if they had a platform, that would help me and I could help them. And I love talking to people about supplements and products in the health and fitness industry. So that's why I do it. So what is your real reason? That's the main one for me. What is the real cost to compete when you first started? What was my budget? I had no idea. At first, I think I remember I spent $300 on my bikini, and then, you know, $100 on registration. It probably cost me $1,000, to be honest, the first time I prepped. Now we're looking at a lot, a lot more than that. So my bikini alone, without a sponsor, would cost $1,100, $1,200 if you want to be with a WBFF. Then you've got to take into consideration meal plans, your coach, so getting your food every week. Having a coach, I can pay up to almost like $500 a month. If you want someone that's actually got credibility and who's worth doing, you need to get travel, you need to get shoes, you need to get your hair and makeup done on the day. You're probably going to need it done again for a photo shoot. So we're looking at grands and grands worth. You can obviously find cheaper ways to do it. I like to kind of put all in if I can, but it also does depend on the federation that you're with, but definitely have a few grand up your sleeve. And if you're traveling, yeah, it's gonna be a bit more than that. How did I work out my macros for my on and off season? Did I have a trainer? I have never had a trainer. Honestly, I've never had a trainer. I've always done it myself, always did trial and error. Probably would have saved myself a lot of trial and error if I did have that straight up. But I think I liked the way that I did it because I worked for myself, and no one will know your body better than you. It doesn't matter how well this trainer is known. It doesn't matter what credits they have or who they are. No one can come in 6 weeks out of a show and tell you the best way to prep. You're gonna know yourself, and the only way you can do that is by doing more and more shows. So this is another thing, if people are competing, or you're dieting for the first time, don't expect it to work amazingly the first time. You're gonna find methods that work for you that might not work for me, and vice versa. So macros, don't even get me started on macros. I don't know. I don't do macros. So in my off season, I eat what I feel like doing. I know that I'm getting enough food in. Quite often I undereat without meaning to, just because I'm not training as much, I'm not as hungry. I eat what I want in my off season, but I'm always healthy, it's my lifestyle. And in my in-season now, I finally do have a coach because I know what works for me, so I can always kind of I can work with them rather than them telling me exactly what to do. It's good to have another opinion, but I'm also not solely relying on my trainer. What I eat in a day, I'm gonna be showing you guys very shortly. And I'll do one more. What's something you wish you knew when you first started that would have made it easier? Oh, God, there's so many. I have to think about that. I think the one thing there's so many, but the one thing I wish I knew was that things are gonna take time and nothing happens overnight. So everything to do with your body and everything to do with training and diet is completely individual. And it doesn't matter who it is that tells you something, you're gonna have to trial it for yourself, and it's just gonna take time. It's literally gonna take time. You can read as many books as you like, you can get the best trainers in the world, but until you know your body, you won't know how to diet the most effectively, you won't know how to train the most effective method for you, and it's literally going to take time. So just be patient. I think we're so impatient. Be patient because it's all going to come. If I could have shown myself where I'm going to be now mentally and physically 3 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. So it's really exciting and it keeps me going, thinking that way, you know, in another 3 years, another 5 years where we could be. So just be patient and literally trust the process and be happy to trial and error and fail a little bit and that method didn't work. That's a good thing. You can cross that off and never go back. So yeah, when it comes to your body and mental state and everything, just trial and error. Let it take time. I have something really funny to show all of you, which I'm gonna go try find now. I actually had a book when I was first getting into fitness, and I had all of these cutouts of these girls that I wanted to look like and all this motivation, and you're gonna die when you see this, because a lot of the girls I've cut out are actually friends of mine now, or I've competed with or something, and it's just, and I've actually been in these magazines myself now, so it's actually really amazing to look back on. I'm gonna go try find it now. So before I take you through this, I started making this book when I was like probably 16. Look at the cover of it. This is I probably put more effort into this book than I did any of my studies. So yeah, sorry mum. But this literally, how funny. That's a lie. I think I pretended that was a subject, but actually I was just doing this during the whole time in school. So this was my first show. Look, I was in a magazine, and I was super proud of that. And these girls I cut out. How funny is this? I literally went through, I was studying this, you guys, like it was an actual subject. This is all the stuff I used to do. No joke. When I was like 16, I just used to like write about macros and look at vitamins, trying to learn myself. Like, don't worry about school. I was just making my own subject here. Literally. So much stuff. These are all my body fat percentages, everything. It's just crazy. I hope that wasn't too boring for you guys. I just wanted to, you know, get my story out there. So I get asked all the time kind of how I did get into it and things like that. So I hope that kind of just gives a story to you guys and lets you guys know that you can literally be anywhere you want to be. I never ever thought, I just thought I didn't have the genetics. Like, I just thought I was big boned. I thought, you know, I made so many excuses to myself why I couldn't have a body that I wanted, or I would never be fit like that. And it's literally just hard work. Anyone can do it. It's just hard work and commitment and determination. So literally, don't talk yourself out of changing a lifestyle for the better or getting fit or competing or whatever it is that you want to do, but make sure whatever it is that you're doing it for yourself. You're passionate about it. Like you can see, I live and breathe this and have done since the time I was 15, not because of Instagram. So, you know, if whatever you want to do, make sure you're not doing it for Instagram, you're not doing it for anybody else, but you're just truly passionate about it. And because this video has been a little bit longer than I thought, I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to take you guys with me tomorrow on my prep day. So I'm going to take you guys through a full day of my eating, my training, what it's like when I'm prepping for a show. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you very shortly.